Please take your seats and silence your cell phones. Our program is about to begin. Please welcome the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt.
All right, good morning. Welcome to day 2. It is my great pleasure to preside over today's Mayors and Business Leaders Plenary Session. Up first, I would like to welcome to the stage the former president of the United States Conference of Mayors and the chair of the Mayor's Business Council. Please welcome Columbus, Ohio Mayor Andy Ginther.
Good morning, everybody. Who else was dancing to Warren G and Sublime this morning when you were getting ready? Welcome to the Mayors and Business Leaders Plenary Session. Thank you to the over 130 members of the Business Council for the support they provide the conference and our cities. The conference looks forward to continuing our commitment to work with America's mayors and the business community to promote the public-private partnerships strengthening the economy in cities and America. This year marks the 11th year the conference is releasing Mayors and Business Driving Economic Growth Report, copies of which are on your tables. And at the 2015 winter meeting, our CEO, Executive Director Tom Cochran, joined within Business Council Steering Committee co-chairs Donovan Pepper and Doug Palmer to a new opportunity where Business Council members could showcase their expertise and willingness to work with America's mayors in all aspects to make this nation stronger. This report showcases innovative, successful, and replicable public-private partnerships with Business Council members in cities across the country. I want to welcome our new members. They're listed on the screen, who have joined us since our winter meeting earlier this year in Washington. New Business Council members, please stand so that we can recognize you and welcome you to the family. I also want to thank and ask to stand and be recognized the 21 companies that have supported the Mayor's Business Council for over 15 years. Please stand so we can recognize your long-standing support and partnership. There are 5 Business Council members that have the honor of being USCM Platinum Partners. Platinum Partners provide substantial long-term support to the conference. Our Platinum Partners, please stand so we can recognize you and thank you for our support. Thank you. Now I want to ask the current and newly elected steering committee members and co-chairs to stand and be recognized. Thank you for stepping up and offering your leadership. Now I would like to invite to the stage for a special presentation and brief remarks the Senior Vice President and Head of Government Affairs at Siemens USA and Mayor's Business Council Steering Committee Co-Chair Bree Saxe and Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Good morning. Serving as Business Council Chair representing Siemens has been a true privilege. On behalf of our 50,000 U.S. employees, 16,000 local suppliers, we are proud to support mayors across the country. Smarter buildings, grids, energy infrastructure, advanced rail and transit networks, high-tech manufacturing, and a high-tech workforce, all fueling the innovation engine in our cities. Now, this moment is a bit full circle for me. Earlier in my career, I had the opportunity to serve as Chief of Staff to a mayor. That leader is here today. Maybe you can guess, he's behind me, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. Now, Mayor Dyer is, let's give him a little love. Now, as many of you know, Mayor Dyer is set to retire next year after 25 years in office. And the lessons that I learned inside City Hall have stayed with me throughout my career. Having that dual perspective in government and industry, I've come to appreciate a common operating principle: show up every single day. You can talk about partnership and collaboration as a key to success, but the best leaders, they don't just show up when times are good for the ribbon cuttings and the parades. They show up when things get hard, because difficult moments are what define leadership. And mayors know this better than anyone. As chief executives of your cities, you've been battle tested with whatever natural disaster, crisis, economic challenge comes your way. All of us can learn from the way mayors show up, govern, and lead with vision. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve on the Business Council. I'd like to recognize my co-chair, Deborah Henson with Atkins Realis. Mayor Dyer, thank you for setting an incredible example of what it means to show up. Thank you to Mayor Ginther, President Holt, and mayors, all of you. Thank you so much for the work that you do to make our communities and our country better.
Thank you, Bree, and congratulations of your time as chair of the Mayor's Business Council Steering Committee. I kind of feel like a proud father watching one of my children that's grown up and gone out and done great things. And one of my great joys as mayor has been the opportunity to recruit and hire really talented young professionals to my administration and watch them grow and thrive. Bree started on my staff over 20 years ago, just out of college, as a public information officer. Then she rose as press secretary, then deputy chief of staff, and eventually chief of staff, which you know is an incredibly important role to any mayor. Then she fell in love with a Secret Service officer who happened to be a counter sniper, so I didn't try to talk her out of that. And she moved to D.C., where she held senior roles in the Obama administration in the Department of Transportation, including assistant administrator of the FFA. She's now, as Andy said, the senior vice president and head of government affairs at Siemens, and Siemens has a very big presence in Orlando. One of the lessons that I've learned over my quarter century as mayor is that one of the most important things you can do is to build up and support your staff. Mentor them, watch them, and they often go on to do bigger and better things, just like Bree and Mayor David Holt. So Bree has never forgotten where she came from, and I can't tell you how many times we've been able to work on things that have been important and helpful to both Siemens and the city of Orlando. So oftentimes your former staff are some of the best advocates for your city. So again, Bree, congratulations, and especially thank you for your work supporting the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We couldn't do the great work that this conference does without our business partners. So thank you and congratulations again.
Let's go up front here, Bree.
All right. Well, it's my honor to get to introduce for some remarks my dear friend, Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles. And we have obviously had Mayor Bass in our thoughts a lot over the last couple of years. LA has had a lot of external challenges, but she has led with strength and grace. And I think what I most appreciate in many ways is her commitment to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We all know sometimes the very biggest cities, those top 5 cities, sometimes they just make cameos at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And we are therefore all the more grateful when you have someone like Mayor Bass who really sees the value in the organization. She has been a huge leader here in the issue of homelessness, of course, but she's just been present. She comes to our meetings, she speaks, she shares what's going on in LA, and she also listens. She clearly is interested in what's going on around the country and how she can bring that knowledge back to Los Angeles. She's been a leader, an ally, and then on a personal level, of course, our special relationship between Oklahoma City and Los Angeles in relation to the LA 28 Olympics, she has been very supportive of. She came to Oklahoma City to my leadership meeting in the fall. We signed a memorandum of understanding relative to the Olympics, and I just can't say enough good things about my friend Karen Bass, and I hope that you will give her a warm welcome to the stage. Please welcome Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
Woo, he's a lot taller than me. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everybody feels good today. And let me just take this opportunity to thank and give a round of applause to our president, Mayor Holt, for his leadership over this last year. It has been a pleasure working with him. And as he's mentioned, he's one of the sister cities with the Olympics, and so it's been very nice to work with him on both fronts. And I want to welcome you to Los Angeles County. We are obviously in Long Beach, but I'm sure you have learned by now that Los Angeles County has 88 cities in it. And I am happy to be here in Long Beach, my sister city with my brother Mayor, who I know, I'm not sure if he's here yet. I know I was at the party last night, so it might be a while before Mayor Richardson joins us. But I just wanted to take my opportunity to welcome you and to tell you that both Mayor Richardson and I are working very closely to welcome the world in 2 short years to the Games, to the Olympics. And we have worked together on many issues, most notably housing and homelessness, where he plays a leadership role in the region, trying to come up with ways where locally we have been able to tax ourselves so we're not completely dependent on federal support. But as Mayor Holt mentioned, I really enjoyed being a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I find it invaluable, all of the experience and knowledge that is in this room. we all have similar problems, and we can share how we are dealing with these similar problems. But one thing I like the most about the U.S. Conference of Mayors is the power in this room. When we organize, when we go to Washington, D.C., we deliver a message that people understand, because a big percentage of Congress members were mayors at some point in time, and we need to remind them so that they don't forget that, and that they think of the cities and make sure that we are able to sustain the funding. Just a couple of things about Long Beach and Los Angeles. We both have ports, and if you look at our ports together, it's the largest ports in the Western Hemisphere. 40% of the goods in the country come through our ports. So we have so much in common, as all of us do, as we work in different cities. And then, of course, collaborating on the Olympics. And Long Beach has played a very significant role. Mayor Richardson has played a very significant role in fighting to have a number of games take place in Long Beach that otherwise would have gone to other cities. But what's going on in Los Angeles right now, yesterday began the U.S. Open in golf for women. And so when we think of all these games coming to town, we want all of our neighborhoods to benefit. Not everybody go to Hollywood and say you've seen L.A. That's just one neighborhood in L.A., but that our neighborhoods benefit economically. As soon as the U.S. Open for golf is over, 4 days later is the World Cup. And the 8 games are going to be played in our region. The World Cup lasts 39 days, though, and so we're having watch parties and fan festivals all over our city. We're also hoping that the economic hit that we received a year ago when the ICE raid started and many businesses are still teetering or have closed, have an opportunity to get a burst of economic stimulus because of so many people visiting and organizing these fan fests. We want to figure out a way so that when games come to town, it's not just a few individuals, a few corporations, but we have a way of spreading the games around the city so that everybody is able to benefit. It was nice going to Oklahoma City a few months ago and seeing the way they're going to play a role with the Olympics, because several games will be played there. So I view the World Cup, the U.S. Open, next year we have the Super Bowl. I view all of these as dress rehearsals to the big one in 2028 as we get prepared. So I do hope that you enjoy your time or have enjoyed your time at the conference. Like I said, I always treasure the opportunity to hear from other mayors, to learn from mayors, and knowing that our power exists right in this room. And I think more and more we need to capitalize on that power regardless of who is in the administration. There are relationships that we all have. There are members of Congress that served as leaders in your local regions, and if we marshal all that power, I know that we can get our agendas done. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I look forward to the workshops and talks the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Please welcome the chair of the USCM Women's Alliance, Fontana Mayor Aquanetta Warren, San Antonio Mayor Gina Ortiz Jones, and Turlock Mayor Amy Bublak.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all better wake up and speak to me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Morning.
See there, that air is going to help you later. We're going to need it, too.
Oh.
I'm excited to be joined by San Antonio Mayor Gina Ortiz Jones and Turlock Mayor Amy Bublak for this important conversation on women mayors leading through rising political hostility and harassment, and the role of peer support in strengthening resilience. I'm going to ask both of you this question. I'll start with you, Mayor Jones. Public service has become more challenging and more personal with women leaders increasingly. facing targeted hostility and threats that can deter talented people from seeking office or continuing to serve. How is this intensifying climate changing the day-to-day realities of local leadership? And what must be done to protect the leadership pipeline and keep public service safe and accessible for the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, well, thank you for hosting this very important conversation. And, you know, it's unfortunate, to your point, about ultimately what this does if it's not checked, right? Which is, to your point, deter good people from going into public service. And so frankly, I must admit, I probably have had, I don't know, I'm almost a year in office, and probably half a dozen death threats, unfortunately, and some of them about really dumb stuff. Well, not that others were about good stuff, but my point is, one of them was about we have, I don't know, a team in the NBA Finals. You might be aware of that. But yes, please clap for that. But early on in my tenure, we were going through kind of the public financing part of how we might contribute to that arena. And I was asking some questions about, you know, the analysis and blah, 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 blah. And so one of the death threats was, in fact, about that, right? And so part of it is, like, actually, I think, framing the conversation about what we're talking about and what we're not talking about, right? We are talking about being good stewards of financial resources, et cetera, not my love of a sporting team, right? So I think, so how we do this is, it's not only kind of up to us in our individual capacities, but I think, you know, we've had several conversations even with our local media outlets about their responsibility to make sure that they are not stoking that, not antagonizing that needlessly, which speaks to, I think, framing the issue, also framing the risks that they may or may not be exacerbating as a result of their reckless reporting.
Thank you. Mayor Ruback?
Certainly. So I come from a past of law enforcement, so I have my own threats that come from putting people in prison and such, that when they get out, they're still mad. So unfortunately, I have the political aspect as well, where people don't like a decision you make. But I still come back to how we are all facing the same issues, and we're never going to agree. I love my husband more than anybody in this world, but we don't agree on everything. I mean, he thinks West Virginia is the best school. I mean, I don't know. So it's just breaking it down and being able to laugh at each other or laugh with each other and not take this position too serious, or those people that are coming at you hot and heavy with, this is the most important thing in my life, and the next week they come with something different.
Mayor Jones, you have been targeted with online threats that required a law enforcement response. I can relate to that. How do you navigate those moments in real time, staying grounded, continuing to lead, and ensuring appropriate safety and security measures in place?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I know this is a panel on us as women, but, you know, as a member of the LGBTQ community, as a woman of color, all those things, right, heighten, unfortunately, I think the level of attacks and also the nastiness of them, unfortunately. And so, you know, I think it's important to address it. I think it is also important to point out, as I have in my press responses, those things that I just mentioned, which is it ain't the same for everybody, and it's important, again, the ways in which local stakeholders are framing some of these issues, and potentially excusing them in the context of their silence. So one, acknowledging it, but then literally, you know, pivoting very quickly to, but you know, we're still addressing X, Y, and Z, and getting back to the business and showing folks that, you know, you're not going to shake me, right? We're going to stay focused on the work.
You have a right to be here. That's my favorite line.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I have a right to be
here. Yeah, as evident by the thousands of people that elected me.
Exactly.
By a lot, yeah.
Mayor Blulack, we recently attended the Sunny Lions retreat where there were important discussions on violence against women leaders and mayors. What were some of the most important safeguards and strategies, lessons that you took away, and how can local leaders better protect themselves and one another while continue to serve openly and effectively, and care about each other.
Right. I think back to when I first became council member 18 years ago and then mayor at 8. We look at things and we can laugh about it. Teams, we joke about which team's better. Pizza, who would ever put anchovies on it? And we're okay, all walks of life. But recently, we look at those things differently now because politics is so bifurcated that life has to be, you're either this or you're this, and you can't change your mind and you can't have your own value, where we used to go back to the golden rule, and that really was evident in the discussion. Is like, let's all remember, it's about respect. Freedom to speak your words is one thing, but when it's gonna harm somebody, it breaks off. We gotta go back to safety of everybody, and you can have your words, but let's be respectful of each other.
I remember in that session, they asked how many women mayors were going to rerun for their positions.
Yeah.
And there was only 3 of us in a room of about 12 women mayors. And that got my attention. This session is called Power in Solidarity, because individual coping strategies are no longer enough in the face of systematic crisis. How can we provide better peer support, especially when it's critical now? And what does that meaningful solidarity look like in practice? This is a question for both of you. We'll start with you, Mayor Jones.
Yeah, well, I think just as a person, right? People, there's a number of hats that we all wear, but as a person, I think it's always really important to understand where you need some help and what things you might be missing as a result of maybe your current approach or your current environment. So I have very much appreciated the number of mayors as I look out into the room that I've been able to reach out to, or even just enjoy, a comment of support and certainly provide that as well. So I think it's an individual kind of resilience piece, but I think it's also, given the magnitude of the challenges that we're all dealing with, cuts, federal cuts, local dynamics, et cetera, it's important that we are there to support each other in a way that is unique, right? I mean, there's only the mayor that knows the mayor experience, right? So quite thankful for certainly this body and the number of folks that have been quite helpful in a number of ways.
I would concur with most of that, and just saying that we can have differences of opinion and help each other still. There's no reason that if somebody's going through something difficult, whether it's one of my colleagues or one of you as a colleague, we're here to help each other. And if they think they have felt a threat, we take it serious. We should never just be like, oh, that's okay, that minimize it. That's not helpful. And that's when the bifurcation, the breakdown of conversation stops right there.
One of the items that came up in that session also is we need the men mayors to speak up on our behalf too. To sit quiet and not say or call or text or not say this was wrong is just basically saying you agree with it in so many ways. And I can say that because through this whole experience that I had at my home and with my family, it was the mayors that called me up and told me this was not right and we don't like it and we're going to be there to fight with you. And it made a big difference. What we all want to understand about this subject is we never know who is coming at us. But we have to protect ourselves and be open and tell somebody. Just like if you see something, say something. For years, I was quiet about the threats I was getting at my home. I didn't say anything. I felt like it was something that I had to deal with all by myself. Mayors, speak up, please, because you may survive that threat, but they may be empowered to go to the next person. Sure. So say something, please. Despite the rising political hostility, collective action can rebuild civic trust. What gives you hope for the future of local leadership, and what is shared responsibility of everyone here to ensure public service remains a viable path? We'll start with Mayor Boulay.
It's this conversation and many more amongst the people that are close to you and throughout your community, and having it right here. Some people, and I would say as a post-law enforcement, you don't want to share that you've been threatened recently or any time, plus don't want a husband to know. But just because you're pride doesn't matter. You can still help other people and help them to get encouraged and understand that this is not okay and we can work it through.
I think what gives me hope, and I think as I share with others that are looking at the end of the day, why do you do this? You do this to serve your community and to have an impact. And given the gridlock at the federal level and at the state level, what gives me hope is that despite all of that, right, there are still great things that you can do at the local level. Whether you're talking about addressing, again, affordable housing challenges or, reducing discriminatory activities at the local level that prevent people from accessing basic services. I mean, it's at the local level where it's happening. So I'm quite optimistic, but I think we also recognize, okay, now how do we continue to motivate folks, given what we're seeing, yes, but, I have to think about, and we have to always be reminded, the people that came before us, oh my goodness, and the nonsense that they had to go through. And so we're all kind of, doing our part here while we're also trying to move the ball forward. So, I always say it's really an honor to serve, even with all the nonsense, it's still an honor to serve.
And I think that's what's important for all of us up here today. If you look at us, it's not stopping us, and it shouldn't stop you. Mm-hmm. This is an honor to serve your fellow human being and make a way for a future for our children. So we're not going to fold in. And you're absolutely right. Those before us, what did they put up with?
Oof. But they didn't have social media.
Right. That's true.
That's right.
Mayor Jones and Mayor Bulak, thank you both for being part of this great conversation. And during these next days, just give a mayor a hug and say, how you doing, girlfriend?
Yeah. Ask
How's
first,
it going?
consent is a thing, yes.
Right, first ask for consent. Just grab, that's for them. You can just grab me, I'm good. So thank you both for coming up here with me today. And
thank you.
As usual, this is what mayors do, and we do it well.
Amen.
Thank you.
Good on left.
Oh, this way.
Please welcome the Vice President of External Affairs for the American Beverage Association, a proud USCM Platinum partner, Bill McManus.
Good morning. For anybody so inclined, I'll take a hug too. As was stated, I'm Bill McManus with the American Beverage Association, and it's a pleasure to join you all today. I'm here this morning to make an important announcement. The grant application period for the next round of the Healthy and Sustainable Communities Awards is now open. I repeat, the grant application period for the next round of the Healthy and Sustainable Communities Awards is now open. Through this program, mayors can find backing for the programs or initiatives that they support to help improve their residents' health or advance sustainability. Since the program's inception in 2012, 93 cities have received a share of more than $8 million in grant funding. I'm so proud of this partnership between the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the American Beverage Association. As you may have heard at the winter meeting, we doubled down on this commitment and refreshed the program with a new name and identity, put a fresh coat of paint on it, and also increased the annual funding to a total of $1 million. 9 winning cities will split this funding. I'd like to invite each of you to think about how your city could benefit from this program. I think it's especially important to note this program is for mayors. It was designed by former mayors who understand precisely the value of this opportunity. There are no big hoops to jump through. You just need a vision, a good program, a well thought out application, and perhaps some luck. We value our partnership with the mayors and local leaders and remain committed to working together to strengthen our communities across the country. The same communities that the beverage industry, the soft drink industry, lives and works in every day. If everybody could get out their phones, there's a QR code on the screen that you'll see. Take out your phones and scan that code to learn more about the opportunity on the U.S. Conference website. As I mentioned, the application period is now open, but don't wait. It closes on the 14th of August. Also, just wanted to make sure there are a few of these pamphlets on the tables. If you haven't seen one, grab it. And we have some extra ones. I know Will would like to see you down at the booth. If anybody has any questions, just ask any of the staff, ask the conference. We'd love to, again, have you drop by the booth for a conversation. There's also an informational webinar that the conference is planning for July the 14th, so watch out for that notice. Thank you again for this opportunity to address you this morning and get those applications in. Thanks so much for your time.
Please welcome the CEO and Executive Director of the United States Conference of Mayors, Tom Cochran.
Yesterday, we mentioned that we do have elections in this country. And as a member of the Big Seven, which is the National Association of Counties, the Governors Association, National League of Cities, state legislatures, we are discussing to have a federalism summit. We started this in Oklahoma City earlier this year. But today we have someone with us who handles elections. You know, I deal with mayors. There's one person in Washington that deals with elections. So since they're coming, midterms, and you have them at the local level too, and then we'll have the presidential in a year or two, we are pleased to have with us today Leslie Reynolds, who is the Executive Director of the National Associations of Secretaries of State. Leslie, would you please come out?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is kind of a big deal for me. Our conferences are not quite so grand and not so many people, and so, you know, you're all in your underwear, so just beware. I will give the briefest of explanations of associations because nobody cares about the background of who the speaker is. But I'm here on behalf of the National Association of Secretaries of State. 40 of the state's secretaries serve as their chief state election official. A couple have lieutenant governors because they don't have secretaries of state. The other 10 states, the territories, and DC are represented by the National Association of State Election Directors. Just for reference, NAS rarely takes formal positions on federal legislation or much of anything, which is, of course, the things I'm going to talk about today. What we do is we summarize federal legislation, executive orders, Supreme Court cases, and send them out with potential questions for the secretaries to think about when it comes to implementation. I won't be sharing any positions, but I will say that there's probably going to be some personal opinions. I've been with NAS for 26 years, and so it's really hard to keep some of these things to myself. Federal legislation. So there's a bunch of federal legislation, but the biggest, I would say, proposal on the table is the Save America Act. You've probably all heard about it. It would require documentary proof of citizenship, in-person voter registration for new voters, photo ID, and it creates a private right of action. And maybe most importantly, at least in my opinion, is it's written to take effect immediately upon passage. So the House passed it earlier this year, and then there's been a strong push in the Senate from the White House, from House leadership, a lot on social media. You've probably seen the post warning any Republican senator that doesn't support it will be primaried. Of course, that could just be my algorithm on X. I don't know if everybody sees those posts, but there is a big push. What I would say is the votes aren't there in the Senate under regular order, and there hasn't been enough support to eliminate the filibuster for it. Yeah. But the longer it stays in the conversation as we move through the summer, the more nervous I get. And I'm Irish Catholic, so I'm a natural hand-wringer anyway, but if this bill were to pass as written with immediate implementation, it would be next to impossible for state and local governments to implement it. It would be impossible. And as I said, it's effective immediately with a private right of action. So, you know, I won't say anything on photo ID or proof of citizenship or any of those things that are in the bill that are most important to everybody out there. What's most important to me is that you can't implement something effective immediately and then with the risk of being sued. There are 2 executive orders out there that impact elections. The first one was issued in March of 2025. It's currently under injunction, so I won't even talk about it. The second one was issued in March of 2026, and it's called the Executive Order on Ensuring Citizenship, Verification, and Integrity in Federal Elections. This order requires DHS to create state citizenship lists, which must be built using SSA data, USCIS SAVE data, and other federal databases. And those lists must be sent to the states by September 4th. DHS is supposed to have an entire infrastructure for this data, so data systems, transmission processes, point of contacts, all in place by June 29th. We've heard nothing from DHS about this yet, and we have been reaching out. So I don't know what is happening with those. Under the executive order, probably the most challenging would be the role of the Postal Service, and it's significant. The major provision says that at least 30 days before a federal election, or whenever mail ballots begin to go out, states must upload all voters who will be mailed a ballot into a new USPS federal mail ballot portal, which doesn't exist. And in my opinion, probably states who mail everybody a ballot would have a much easier time implementing this than states where you have to request an absentee ballot, and then states are going to be trying to compile lists. So what needs to be uploaded into this portal is the voter name, address, unique barcode for the envelope when the ballot goes out from the election office, the unique barcode for when the ballot is returned from the voter, and the originating election office. Anyone who is not on a list of the voters entered into the portal will not be able to vote by mail. USPS is supposed to issue, supposed to be checking these lists against the list, checking what's in the portal against lists that the states sent to them. There's just so much. USPS is struggling to deliver the mail. And we write them letters every September saying, let's get it together, let's deliver that mail. And now they're going to be charged with doing all of this. Around Election Day, after Election Day, USPS will provide each state with a final participation list. Essentially, that's a list of everyone who they sent a ballot to with the corresponding barcodes. And they will also verify that states met all the standards that were required for the envelopes and things of that nature. So USPS released a notice of proposal rulemaking on Monday of this week. We have until July 2nd for public comment. And then USPS must issue a final rule by July 29th. This is an extremely tight timeline for rules that require major new systems and data flows. Plus, there are provisions within USPS that it's supposed to go, rulemaking is supposed to go through the Postal Regulatory Commission first. That's not even referenced in the executive order. A federal court recently, last Thursday or Friday, denied an injunction against this executive order because they said nothing had happened yet. No rules were in place, no lists had been created, so no one was being harmed because nothing had happened. Now that the rule has been implemented, that the rule was released on Monday, we do have, a situation where the lists are and the rules are created. So I don't know if there'll be another injunction request, but I would imagine there would be. We'll see whether the litigation will shift. We have reached out to the USPS to talk to us. Part of the rulemaking said that they would engage with stakeholders, and I just heard back from them this morning, actually. And so we're hoping to have a call with them next Thursday, but they will not talk to any of my members because they're worried about litigation, things like that. So they'll talk to us, staff, and then I'll have to relay what they said. The final thing I wanted to talk about is the Supreme Court RNC versus Watson decision, which is basically The court is considering whether ballots must be delivered to the election office by Election Day, or whether the voter can just postmark the ballot and have it delivered after election. As long as the ballot is postmarked by Election Day, on Election Day, then they can be counted after. 36 states currently require ballots to be received by Election Day. So the remaining ballots allow for the voter to have the postmark, but the deadlines for delivery after and when they can be counted vary. I would say that the ruling, we're all watching, right? So it's another thing with the post office. We struggle, you know, the post office, they've changed their processes, they've changed their postmark requirements for how they process mail, and so there's mail from South Dakota goes to Wyoming, comes back. I mean, there's a lot going on. And so it's going to be a difficult thing for anybody to implement. But basically, the biggest challenge would be if the court rules that ballots have to be received by Election Day, we still have primaries that are happening. The court has to rule by the end of this month before their session ends. So we will still have primaries in July and August. So that will be one way that ballots will be counted. And then if they say that ballots have to be received by Election Day, then November will have a different story. And so the voter education campaigns are going to be big. And there used to be the Purcell principle, which says that no court should make any decision that would impact an election too close to an election. And with all the redistricting things that we have seen, that's really not the case anymore. And so I'm not sure what the Supreme Court will say. It will impact military and overseas voters. It will impact voters who have to be, you know, North Carolina voters who had to relocate because of the weather, because of the storms. It'll impact them. You know, it'll impact everybody that has to be dealing with natural disasters, and the states that have long mail routes. And like I said, a huge voter education effort. So I know this is a lot and not very happy for a breakfast talk, but the election officials are preparing for the remaining primaries. They're preparing for November while we're trying to navigate and educate them on all of the things that are happening in Washington. You know, our goal as a very small NAS staff of 5 people is to keep the states informed on the latest activity, and it's going to be busy, and we're going to be busy, and I want to thank you very much for your time this morning.
Please welcome Columbia, South Carolina Mayor Daniel Rickenman and World Program Executive Director David Beasley.
Good morning, everyone. Come on, a little energy. I'm caffeinated up, aren't you? You know, it's so exciting. We're here to talk about the job of being a public servant. You know, we always get caught up talking about budgets and infrastructure and garbage and water. But the best of us, the leaders who truly move the needle, never lose sight of why. They understand that politics is a tool, not a game, right? And today we're joined by a leader who has demonstrated the philosophy at every scale. The State House in South Carolina to the global stage as the director of the World Food Program Against Hunger. And my friend, mentor, former governor of South Carolina, the director from the World Food Program, David Beasley. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you. I mean, you guys are the front line. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate. I can remember many of my friends that went from being governor of the U.S. Senate, and they're like, you know, being a mayor, being a governor, it's where it happens. It's where the rubber meets the road. So I know all of you out there are working so hard, so thank you for your service. It really, I tell you what's touched me. is I'm not seeing people running around DR. It's all about, hey, what are you doing? How's it happening? And that's the camaraderie that builds America and makes it so great. So, Mayor, thank you.
Well, first of all, I also got to tell y'all, this gentleman here won a Nobel Peace Prize for his work at the World Food Program. So we're very excited to have him here, right?
That's not a phone call you get every day.
And so he's a true leader. But, you know, Governor, you spent your life navigating two different worlds, similar worlds in a sense, but governor's office, the global stage. Looking back, how do you see the role of politics differently now?
You know, politics is politics since the beginning of time. You know, it's humanity the way it is. But, you know, when I was in the House of Representatives, you know, I was elected 7 times as a Democrat, 1 time as a Republican. So, and quite frankly, I'm so fed up with both parties right now, I can't see straight. You know, let's bring America back to the middle.
I think we can relate.
Yeah, I know you can, because you're dealing with these extremists versus the centrists, where American people are. But when I served in the House, you know, my best friends were my biggest enemies on the floor. We would fight it out, but we'd go have dinner together and share time together and discuss our differences, but we were always friends. And today, it's like you got to go to your corner. You can't talk to anybody on the other side, and that's different. In social media, I was giving a talk to the G20 or G7, I can't remember which one it was. And I'm the guy, because I'm the guy that deals with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, the Houthis, North Korea, Venezuela. I'm the bad guys, because I've got to move food in to stabilize populations and keep people from dying. And so they like to hear what's going on out there. And so I was giving this off-the-record talk, and I pulled out my cell phone, and I looked at the leaders, and I said, this right here is going to bring an end to democracy as you know it within 15 years. And that was 5 years ago. And Macron looked at me like, David, you've got to be kidding. If I said that today, they wouldn't even blink, because we've all seen how the disinformation and misinformation. So it's a different world. And you're navigating that in a world that is going to need to find the pathway to bring stability and so much hope in a time when there's so much division. But I still have hope, especially when I come here and see you men and women who are just, you're getting it done. So thank you.
And speaking about hope, how did your time as governor shape your approach to leading this massive organization? The World Food Program is massive.
Yeah. Well, we were big even when I took over, and I actually didn't want the job. Trump got elected in 2016. I get this phone call from one of my liberal atheist friends, and we joke, we were really close friends from Canada. We worked together in Kosovo and Sudan, and he said, will you take a role with Trump? I said, no, I didn't do it with Bush, who was one of my best friends. I certainly not going to do it here. And he said, well, you know, at the UN, we're scared of Trump. And I said, well, you should be. You know, kind of laughed about it. And well, anyway, the D's and the R's in the Senate, who control foreign affairs, intelligence, and armed services, said you're the only one that can reverse this thinking. So I said, look, I don't want this job. And but anyway, I got talked into it, and it was remarkable what happened. I mean, we call it the miracle on Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean, we took the White House, the D's and the R's, brought them all together, and instead of funding being cut, we absolutely escalated funding around the world. So the World Food Program, I went from raising what was about $10 million a day to $39.2 million a day, $55 billion, feeding 160 million people. But with that, we stabilized populations, which mitigated against migration by necessity. So I was the guy that walked in the halls of Congress, and I used to use this metaphor. I said, you've got leaking water lines in the ceiling, talking about immigration. And I said, it's $1,000 to go up there and fix the root cause. But no, hell no. You want to go out there and fight over where to put the buckets. And so 6 months from now, you got to replace the carpet, the mahogany tables, the chairs, the sheetrock, and it's a $100,000 fix. I said, we've got solutions. I've not met a refugee that wanted to leave home. But if you can't feed your children and have any degree of peace, you could do what any mom and dad would do in the world. I've had more women tell me in Africa, in the Sahel, that my husband didn't want to join ISIS, but Mr. Beasley, we hadn't fed our little girl in 2 weeks. What were we supposed to do? And so America is great when we're good. You know that old statement Alexis de Tocqueville said, America is great because America is good. When we cease to be good, we will cease to be great. Well, you know, we're not being good right now. And we're not going to be great again until we're good. And when we lead that shining city on the hill, well, the world follows us. And I think the mayors at a time like this, when there's so much division in America, you're the light, you're the salt, you're the glue that keeps us together. So don't slow down, don't back down, and let's continue to lead, because I do believe we will shine again around the world when there's so much division around the world.
Well, you know, we're at the ground level, right? We always say if you want to get something done, you get it done with mayors. I mean, we're in grocery stores, we're in churches, we can't hide, right? So we understand that feeling, but, you know, building across boundaries that resonate deep with us, you know, in city government. Whether you're trying to rehabilitate housing stock or improve water infrastructure, you know, getting that people to agree on that share. During your time at the World Food Program, you dealt with the crises of famine, conflict, climate impact, how that had an effect on what was happening in those countries. What's the one lesson you wish every local leader today could understand about turning a crisis into community solutions?
You know, when it happens, you know, how do you bring the phoenix out of the ashes? And we did that all over the world, because I was dealing from crisis to crisis to crisis, as you can imagine, from war, because 80% of our operations are in areas of war and conflict. And add on top of that, cyclones and earthquakes, and then not many people would know this, like when something like Ebola hits, we are the containment mechanism, because people have to have food. And you get food, you got to go out of the city to go somewhere else to get the food. Well, we're the containment mechanism. So one of the things that we would do is take advantage of the crisis to create a mindset to how do we change the way we're doing things to make it better. And that's, you know, it's leadership and building the teams that actually will execute your plan and your way of thinking. And I could give you thousands of examples of what we did for places all over the world. One of the things that we would do, for example, aid. It's one thing to have ineffective aid. You just handed out aid over and over and over and over again. And to take aid and turn it into a community development opportunity. I believe that every humanitarian dollar ought to be a community opportunity to redesign the community. And I can tell you, if you want to learn entrepreneurship, capitalism, you give an African woman the tools she needs to have a sustainable village, growing their own food, feeding their own families. I can remember, I would be shocked that the UN would be in a village for 30 years. And I'm like, you know, I appreciate your hard work. I know you mean well, but maybe it's not working. How do we redesign the system such that they're self-sufficient, taking care of themselves? And I can give so many fantastic stories when women and families can take care of themselves, the pride. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful thing.
Which perfectly plays into, you've been the tireless advocate that development brings peace, right? So when you look at the challenges that all of us mayors in our American cities have, from housing affordability, economic opportunities for our residents, how do you apply that same logic?
You know, what I've seen around the world, and I'm in the hardest places. I see what happens when people don't work together. I see what happens when leaders really don't care. You've got corruption and they're just talking past each other. And America's on that trajectory now, and we got to turn it around. Because what has made America so great is because we work together. It's a spirit about America that I just don't see anywhere in the world, and we're losing that. But I'm convinced that the American dream is not over. I think we'll go rekindle that spirit. One of the things that I'm doing now is giving speeches across the country called Breaking Bread Tour. It's the power of sitting down, and I would challenge each and every one of you to go break bread with somebody. If it's a different color or different religion or different political, don't go talk politics and religion. Just get to know each other, and it's amazing what will happen. And so in these talks, I'm challenging the private sector. Yeah, your charity is helpful, but I want your ownership. I want you to take ownership of the poverty of this neighborhood. What are we going to do? How do we engage in taking the poorest of the poor where they can have hope and opportunity? Hire somebody you don't need. Bring them into the system. And so I really believe that the mayors are at the place where we can transform this country and take it to another level, because you're dealing with some very complex issues right now. I mean, the tariffs, AI, where's it going? How's it going to change things? It's going to change things, but America, we're the best. We really are. You know, and the men and women out here that I've been hearing from and listening to, I mean, it gives me so much hope. I mean, it really does. And the young people in this country, oh, they're ready to see us take it to a whole
That's why I
nother
get
level.
fired up every day, because I'm in an organization with folks that are out here in this room that are doing amazing things. These people are doing extraordinary work every day, solving problems, making their communities better, and we see it at the ground level. If we could just get our Congress and our administration to work like we do, we'd be in a much better place, but we're headed there. Right? We're headed there.
You remember, many of you may not remember this, when Clinton was president and we had the block grant fight. And the mayors, the governors, and Clinton was been a governor from Arkansas, and we did the block grant in such a way that we pushed it back to the states and to the mayors and said, you know best how to solve these things. And it was an amazing success story. We've got to get back to that, where Washington's not telling us what to do. Trust the mayors. That's the fabric of the nation.
We have 100 examples out here of things that work that we could take to Washington. Governor, I could sit here and talk with you all day. We got to get up here. Y'all, let's give a hand for the governor.
Thank y'all.
Being here with us. He's going to be here for the rest of the day, so catch him in the hallway. He's got some incredible stories to tell. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for attending this morning. We now stand adjourned.